In the previous video, we created our very first automated test. In this video, let's write another test, but with a different approach. And the approach we are going to follow is that of test-driven development, or TDD for short. TDD is something you might come across when learning about testing, so I wanted to introduce you to the topic in this video. Test-driven development, TDD for short, is a software development process where you write tests before writing the software code. Once the tests have been written, you then write the code to ensure the tests pass. This process involves three phases. Phase 1 is to create tests that verify the functionality of a specific feature. All tests are bound to fail at this point. Phase 2 is to write software code that will run tests successfully when re-executed. Phase 3 is to refactor the code for optimization while ensuring the tests continue to pass. This type of testing is also called red-green testing, as all tests go from a red failed state to a green passed state. If this is clear, let's head back to VS Code and follow the TDD approach to re-implement the greet component. As you can see, I have removed the JSX from the greet component, and it is now an empty shell. I've also removed all the code from greet.test.tsx. Let me paste the requirements for the component. I'm going to say that greet should render the text hello, and if a name is passed into the component, it should render hello followed by that name. Really simple requirements, as you can see. Let's begin with our TDD approach. Phase 1 is to write the tests that meet the requirements. Our first test remains the same as our previous video, so let me quickly go through the test. Test. The name is greet renders correctly. And we pass in an arrow function with our expectation. We render the greet component and import render from React testing library and the greet component. We then get hold of the text hello by querying the screen object, which we again have to import from React testing library. Screen.getByText hello. We then expect the text element to be in the document. Const text element, and expect text element to be in the document. This test will address our first requirement. Now for the second requirement, the component should render hello followed by the name if a name is passed in. So test. The name is greet renders with a name. And we pass in an arrow function with our expectation. We render the greet component. But this time, we pass in a name prop set to Vishwas. Now, we still expect text to be present. So const text element is equal to screen.getByText. But this time, the text is hello Vishwas. We then expect that element to be in the document. We have now written tests to cover the functionality of the greet component. If I save the file, Jest will rerun and pick both the tests. Both of them fail as expected, and this is the red part of the red-green testing. Let's proceed to phase 2, where we are going to write the code to pass these tests. Back in greet.tsx, to pass the first test, we return a div tag with the text hello. As soon as I save the file, the tests rerun, and we now see one failed and one passed. If you look at the top, you can see that the first test, greet renders correctly, has passed. Let's now focus on the second test. To make sure this works, we still need to pass in a name prop to the greet component. Since we are using TypeScript, let's begin by declaring the props type. Type greet props has one property name of type string. Now we can specify props of type greet props, and in the JSX, render hello followed by props.name. When I save the file, you can see both the tests have passed. However, the test file still flags an error. And this is a TypeScript error. However, it says property name is missing but required in type greet props. To fix this, in greet props, make name optional. We now have everything in green. This is the green part of the red-green testing. Of course, TypeScript flagging errors is not part of unit testing, but it is more of a compile time testing. That completes phase 2 of TDD. For phase 3, we can refactor the software code if we need to while ensuring the tests pass. Since our code is already as simple as it can be, phase 3 is optional. You have successfully written your second React test. To quickly review, we learned that TDD is a software development process where we write tests first before writing software code. We also learned the 3 phases of TDD: writing tests, followed by writing software code, followed by refactoring. For our example, we created 2 tests to meet the given requirements. We used objects and methods we learned in the previous video, such as test, render, screen, and expect. When the test failed, we proceeded to write the software code. First, the hello message, and then props object with a name. We also ensured name is optional to pass the compile time checks that TypeScript takes care of. With that, we come to the end of the first section in this series. We have covered what is an automated test, types of automated tests, difference between Jest and React testing library, set up our React project using Create React App, understood the anatomy of a test, created our very first test, and learned about TDD and created our second test. If all of this is clear, let's move on to the next section where we will focus on Jest and its configuration. Thank you for watching. Please do consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.